I'm Guzu. I'm a screenwriter and comic book writer, and I am writing my own Marvel Universe. An epic decades-long period saga with each chapter, or in MCU terms, each phase, to be set in a decade as we follow real-life events and history itself completely changed by those characters. In the last video, I talked about my universe chapter 1, the 1960s, so if you haven't seen it yet, that's your cue. Now, it's time we go to chapter 2, because I am... Before we begin, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe, because look at this, more than 90% of you aren't even subscribers. What is that? Help me grow on YouTube, man. Right, let's go. Picking up where we left. Last chapter, the world met the Ultimates. Steve Rogers, the Captain, and his team, T'Chaka, King of Wakanda, Black Panther, and Sam Wilson, the Falcon, started an uprising against the US government Sentinel Project, a machine sentry that identifies mutants to neutralize them and remove their X gene. Calling them terrorists, the president orders SHIELD to send a superhuman task force, the Ultimates, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, and the Wasp, to stop Rogers and his team, who's been invading military bases and destroying all things related to the Sentinel Project. After a big confrontation, heroes change sides, and the Ultimates are disbanded. All of them, except for the Black Widow, leave SHIELD altogether, completely breaking any connection they have with the organization. Steve Rogers was back, and with him, an old-fashioned heroism had returned. Once again, the future looked bright, and after 20 years as a nomad, he finally found his place, not loyal to any flag, but to a dream. And then, upon the silver vibranium shield, came color and a star. Captain America was back. Tony Stark shuts down Stark Industries Arms Manufactory altogether, and completely terrified by what his technology was capable of doing, Stark joins Captain America's cause as the Iron Man. Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne follow him, and so does Clint Barton. Not affiliated to any organization, to any government, to any nation. Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, Falcon, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Hawkeye. The Ultimates are no more. Now, they were the Avengers. And justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 1970s. The Avengers are controversial. They've got the Avengers Mansion in the heart of New York. They deal with super crimes and natural disasters. They travel around the world and in and out of space. But they are not regulated. They are not exactly agents of America. And some folks don't like that. By that time, America was fighting the Vietnam War. The Avengers, on the other hand, actively refused to take part in that. And with a man dressed in stars and stripes as their leader, that will receive a massive backlash from a great part of the public, and mainly from the politicians. Enter Chapter 2 main villain, the businessman ruling his empire from his self-named tower, the mayor of New York, Wilson Fisk. As you know, in real life, the Vietnam War was a big deal to the United States. Although America didn't exactly lose on the battlefield, its purpose in the war was not achieved at all. In this Marvel Universe, however, things would not happen in the same way. As a big player in the politics and a close friend to the president, Wilson Fisk arranges a special task force with the intent of entering Vietnam and neutralizing all resistance. A Black Ops completely unknown to the public, a kind of Suicide Squad if you will. Nuke, Bullseye, Crossbones, Taskmaster, Ironmonger, and an unrevealed secret weapon, the Hulk, completely mind-washed and more savage than ever. This information reaches the Avengers, and now there's no option. They must go to Vietnam, and they must stop Fisk's task force. This is our story. The Avengers meets Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, and Platoon. A war story where superheroes must stop violence and protect innocents at all costs. As it proceeds, we learn that was Fisk's intention all along, to frame the Avengers as war criminals, as traitors of the American nation, like they were sabotaging America. And it works. The majority of the US nation backs Fisk up, as the minority start to see the Avengers as resistance and anti-war icons. Nonetheless, Fisk wins, and with that, he starts a campaign not only as the mayor, but as the president of the United States. And he is victorious. Wilson Fisk is the president, and now, superheroes and vigilante activities are prohibited. Military task force gain more power, the police becomes more ruthless. The devil's reign commences, and the Avengers are on the run. But now, they have Bruce Banner on their side. Before moving on, check this out. In my last videos, a lot of you really praised the way I use music in my stories, which is honestly my favorite part of editing. But now, with the channel monetized, yay! I really can't use the tracks that I like to, because it would just get the video demonetized. So I created a specific Spotify playlist for every project I'll be talking about today. So if that's something you dig, go check them out in the pinned comment. Okay, so now, let's talk about this chapter season, or how I like to call it, volume of Tales from the Marvel Universe. As you can expect by now, my intention is to have it every chapter, not only to continue to expand my universe, but to keep the ongoing arc moving in a more natural way. Episode 1 is called Old Gods of Asgard. 20 years ago, in the 1950s, the surviving soldiers of Hydra, being led by Baron von Strucker, recurred to one last occult ritual, to summon a god. They spent years on an expedition in Iceland, searching for the secret roots of the world tree, the Yggdrasil, and they find it. Upon concluding the ritual, they summon the god of thunder himself, son of Odin, Thor. But he wouldn't help them as they would hope. So for the past 20 years, Thor has been trapped in Midgard, and our episode jumps back and forth between the 50s and the 70s as we follow him become quite fond of the humans' world. Now, a full-time sailor, using the name Donald Blake. But by the end, his mundane life gets interrupted when he is paid the visit of Nick Fury and Natasha Romanova. Episode 2 is Midnight Suns. When trying to cure his own insomnia by tinkering with an object from the dream world, Doctor Strange accidentally opens a breach between our world and the Nightmare Realm, possibly putting in great harm every human being in the world as long as they're asleep. Now, he must gather with other creatures of the night to cross over to the Nightmare world and literally stop Nightmare himself. Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, Blade, and Moon Knight. They are the Midnight Suns. It's like Justice League Dark meets Nightmare on Elm Street. For episode 3, we fly from the underworld to outer space for a story called Riding Stars. Our first look at this universe space cosmos, literally, as we follow the centuries-long war between the Kree and Skrulls through the eyes of the man himself, Richard Rider, Nova. A Fantastic Four story from the last chapter is my way to homage 60s space pieces like Star Trek. Riding Stars is my way to homage 70s space operas like Star Wars. It's colorful, it's trippy, and it's honestly David Bowie plus disco. Episode 4 is World of Glass, a Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne story. After the events of the Avengers, Hank and Janet both retired from the superhero career. Now, they just want to live a simple and normal life. But here's the twist. In this story, we find out that actually the Ant-Man, or Giant Man, isn't exactly capable of growing bigger. Actually, he is shrinking all the time, even when he is in normal size. He was first recruited to the Ultimates because, when creating his pin particles at S.H.I.E.L.D., an accident turned him into Giant Man, permanently. So his natural form is actually the Giant Man. And when he is in normal size, it's because he is using his suit. He lives in a constant fear of harming all things around him, trapped in the Ant-Man suit so he can live a normal life, many times seeing the world in the same way we see anthills. He sees his powers, his career, as a curse, while Janet, on the other hand, sees it as a gift, a calling, a way to help to fix the world. Moving to episode 5, we have Fantastic Holidays. Now, a truly wholesome story. The plot is quite simple actually. As the Fantastic Four return home from a mission in outer space, they realize they arrived later than they anticipated, and today is actually Christmas Eve, or Hanukkah in Ben's case, meaning the 4 of them must go out and buy presents for the whole family. The story takes place in real time, as the 4 stories overlap each other just like a good Christmas rom-com. Finally, we go to the last episode of this volume, From Russia with Love. A classic espionage story starring Natasha Romanova, the Black Widow. Ever since the election of Wilson Fisk, Natasha and Nick Fury have been working behind the curtains to assist the Avengers. Aesthetically, it really looks like a swinging London Bond film, like in Her Majesty's Secret Service, but thematically, it's like a Watergate investigation thriller, like All the President's Men, but with a femme fatale. Her mission is to get into a government base, get the files that prove Fisk's involvement with Vietnam, and get out. Until finally, she reunites with the Avengers, but bringing in a little friend of hers, Thor. Okay, now we really get into Chapter 2 score, an epic crime saga. With the Avengers and some of Tale's stories, we have a Cold War political thriller saga, but now we get into the streets. Kicking it off, I present to you Spider-Man, the City That Never Sleeps. 5 years after we last saw him, Peter Parker just graduated college. Now, he works full-time as a Daily Bugle staff photographer while living with the love of his life, Mary Jane Watson, who just started acting in a really successful soap opera, The Secret Hospital. Now, they both juggle their personal and work life with the fact that Peter Parker is the amazing Spider-Man, All of that while they try to raise money for marriage. But of course, Peter's life becomes even more chaotic when Wilson Fisk becomes the president of the United States, banning superhero activity and consequently giving power to organized crime. Now, Spider-Man must stop a turf war between Tombstone, Hammerhead, Dr. Octopus and the Hobgoblin, all of that while dealing with Fisk's anti-vigilante task force. It's like Roger Stern's Amazing Spider-Man run meets Martin Scorsese's After Hours. It's bright, it's colorful, it's action-packed. Next, we have Heroes for Hire, and hear me out because I really love this one. So the Avengers are dealing with the problem on political level, and Spider-Man on a super mafia level. With Power Man and Iron Fist, we get something else. They are the low ground, full-on street level, literally trying to make a living out of the superhero career. And now, with crime rates higher than ever, they see an opportunity. Inspired by 70s icons as Dolomite, Shaft, and Bruce Lee, Luke and Danny hire Daily Bugle's photographer Eddie Brock to literally follow them with a camera as they face supervillains trying to make a film starring the Heroes for Hire. Because, obviously, it will be like a giant publicity. Imagine Shaft plus Kill Bill plus The Warriors plus Miami Vice plus Better Call Saul. And no, I'm not joking. All of that with the sounds of Michael Jackson, Bee Gees and Earth, Wind and Fire. Go, tell me it ain't fly as hell. Blaxploitation, kung fu, soul music and disco. So very disco. Moving on, we have, of course, X-Men Class of 75. Now this is prime X-Men. Cyclops, Phoenix, Storm, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Colossus and Banshee. As Magneto officially leaves the school and creates his Brotherhood of Mutants, the X-Men must stop him from creating a racial war between humans and mutants, while also fighting the Hellfire Club and the Reverend William Stryker's religious crusade against mutant kind. It's like Chris Claremont's run on a much more 70s aesthetic. We travel to the Savage Land, we face Arcade, and of course, we explore character traits exclusive to this universe, as Logan investigates his past and finds out about his years as the Winter Soldier, until he finally finds out who broke him free. It ain't so connected to the 70s crime saga as the rest of Chapter 2, but because I'm so much more interested in seeing the X-Men explore their own corner of the universe, and all things, places and characters we can only see when the X-Men are the ones we're following. Next, we have Here Comes Daredevil. Listen, I like Daredevil Born Again, I love Netflix's Daredevil, I love Chip Zdarsky's run, and of course I love Frank Miller's run. But they all drink from the same fountain, which is Miller's run itself. For the past years, all things Daredevil related were these dark and gritty realistic stories, and I'd like to do something else. Inspired by Mark Waid's run, I would love to do a colorful, dynamic and action-packed story that really uses the medium itself as a way to explore Matt's blindness. Hear me out. What if the story was made to feel like the way Matt perceives things? A psychedelic piece full of textures, sounds and smells. Like Into the Spider-Verse stylized story, the way artists like Paulo Rivera and Chris Samney portrayed them. Like, imagine a Daredevil story that looks and feels just like Speed Racer. In this story, we follow Matt and Frank Castle, the Punisher, as they investigate organized crime and their connection to President Fisk, including the disappearance of Benjamin Poindexter, Bullseye. Also, I'd like to explore some villains that never had the chance to really shine outside comics, especially Owl. Next, we have Black Panther, Concrete Jungle. The title says it all. Although that's something we never actually saw in films or any cartoon, the Panther always had these urban roots in the comics, which is something I was always interested in. Like I said before, this version of the character is actually T'Chaka, and having in mind that I will introduce T'Challa going forward, I'd really like his father to have a special trait in his stories. If T'Challa's stories are centered around him as a king in Wakanda, T'Chaka is a hunter. The story is also real simple. After the events of the Avengers and Black Widow's story, the Avengers finally have the information they need to expose Fisk and reveal to the public who he really is, as well as his intentions with the Vietnam War. But remember, we are in the 70s, they can't just send an email to the press, and Fisk got eyes everywhere. This is where we start. With the Fisk files in his possession, the Black Panther must make it to New York and personally hand them to the Baxter Building, where the Fantastic Four could broadcast the files to TVs and screens everywhere, as Fisk's entire task force is on his trail. In the meantime, Fisk hires 10 supercriminals to hunt down the Black Panther and stop him before he delivers his message. So it's like John Wick 3 plus 1917, but with the Black Panther. Of course, he makes it, and by the end, Wilson Fisk gets exposed. The entire world now knows the president is the Kingpin, and finally, he's untouchable no more. This story is then immediately followed by our climax, Marvel Knights, which take place literally seconds after Black Panther Concrete Jungle. Wilson Fisk is now a known war criminal, and a big one, literally. As his last play, the Kingpin locks himself up on his Fisk Tower, protected by all the supervillains he hired, and of course, his task force. But he knows what's coming for him. Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Black Panther. They are the Marvel Knights, and they all have been waiting for this moment to get to Fisk, and they sure will. This story is like a dungeon crawl, as the heroes go floor to floor facing enemies in non-stop action, like a film shot in real time. Literally, imagine Die Hard but with superheroes. By the end, Fisk is defeated, and all his schemes and all his conspiracies get exposed to the public, finally lifting the anti-vigilante law and once again bringing back the superheroes to America, bringing back the Avengers. But after living through all of that, Captain America gets once again confronted by the feeling of impotency, like no matter what he does as a superhero, no matter how many lives he saves, America keeps chained in its own cycle of corruption, of greed. So, Steve Rogers chooses to run for President of the United States. And here is where we end our Chapter 2, heading into the 1980s. If you want to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss when I post Chapter 3. Also, on that note, why don't you help me name it? Like Absolute DC and Ultimate Marvel, I think it would be really fit if we had our own name. Thank you for watching. Obrigado e tchau tchau.